Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are going to be doing something a little bit different. I know it's been a while since we made a video for you guys, but today we are going to do something a little bit different, and we are going to be dealing or delving into how to make cost for a construction project. So I'm going to look into the estimate, how to estimate for the construction cost, as in the material, the labor, and everything for a construction. And this is our building we are going to make a cost of. So if you've not subscribed to the channel, try to do so before you continue this video, and also just give me a like. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so this right here is, let me go to the plan of this building. Yeah, so we have this the plan of the building. We have, it's a 2-bedroom apartment or a flat house. So we have the first bedroom here. This is the second bedroom. Got 2 washrooms over here, the kitchen, the dining, the main lounge, and also another washroom at this side. So it's a very simple structure, and it's not really complicated. Not enough design for this structure. It's just a flat house. So this how it looks. This is how the building is going to be looking. A very nice building, of course. One of our recent projects we actually dealt with, and I'm going to use the cost we made for that project to be, just teaching you how to also make or estimate for a cost for your construction project. So for that, I made a very good Excel sheet that I used to, just estimate for the prices and everything. So I'll just open this Excel sheet. So okay, yeah, this is it. So the 2-bedroom apartment, we have this over here, and this is our building estimate. And our estimate has been done into sections. That's the substructure, the superstructure, the roofing, and at sheet 2, this is for the interiors, as in the tiling, the washroom accessories, the kitchen. We'll be going through each and every one of them, so you know how to estimate for it and know the pricing of everything, so that I can also do an estimate for your building. So we will start in today's video. We'll just be talking about the substructures in the foundation level, the materials that goes into it, the labor force that goes into it, and the total cost once we are done with the foundation. So we are just going to start with that. So I'm just going to take you through this Excel sheet, how I've done this, and we have this first section to be the item description. We have where we've described the item over here. We have the quantity. Let me place this, just center. Okay, much better now. So this is the quantity, the unit price of the item you'll be describing, the supply rate, as in the amount, that's the unit price times the quantity. So maybe if I'm buying 3 quantities of WC and it's maybe 100 cedis, so the 100 times 3, that's 300 cedis. That's the supply rate. The install rate is the amount that is charged for doing the installation of that item, and the amount is just a summation of the supply rate and the install rate. So that's how this Excel sheet has been made. So we are first going to look at our first item over here, and our first item is the clearing of sites. So once you know that you get your land, this Excel sheet doesn't include the price of the land, because the pricing of land varies across different locations. So we are going to start using this Excel sheet once you obtain your land. So we have our site clearing here. So we have to do that if your land has a lot of vegetation on it, a lot of trees or a lot of plants on it. You also have to clear the land to get a very good and prepared land where you can start your construction work without facing any challenges. So you first have to clear this land. And clearing of this land, I'm going to be using 2 laborers, and the rate for a laborer a day is 150 cedis. So 150 cedis, 2 laborers a day, that's 300 cedis. So I'm going to assume like I'm going to take 2 days to do the clearing of the site. So 300 cedis times 2, that's 600 cedis. But I'm estimating 1,000 cedis. That's assuming the land is quite bigger and I'll need more hands to make it faster. So 1,000 cedis for clearing of the site. And if it's a big construction that you are working on, maybe you also need to get a backhoe or a excavator to clear the land for you. So that's where big size construction, but this is just a small a mini construction. So I don't really need the machine to do that for me. I can do that manually by getting laborers to do the site clearing. So once you are done with the clearing of the site and the land is prepared to start, what we have to do now is our profiling setting. We have to set our profile. So the profiling setting is just transferring the grid lines or transferring the layout of the building drawing from the you see you have your drawing plans. You have to transfer the grid lines onto the land to demarcate where the columns will be, where your excavation is going to take place. So that's what we call the profiling setting. So with the profiling setting, you have to get some materials to be able to start with the profiling. So one of the material that I'm using here is the wire board bush cut. So this wire board bush cut, I estimated quantity of 15. I think the wire board bush cut, the length of it is I think is it 9 feet? Yeah, 9 to 10 feet. It varies. So 10 feet, and this is what we'll be doing with the bush cut. So this is what I have here. So this is my building space over here. This is the compound space. So this building space is where the building is going to be. So the wire board bush cut, I'll use the bush cut to cover the surroundings of where the building space is going to be. So the wire board bush cut is going to just enclose the building space and to demarcate that this is the place you'll be constructing your structure. So you know that one wire board is like 10 feet. So 10 feet, just calculate the number of wire boards you'll be needing to just enclose this working space, and you have that quantity. So once you have the quantity, mine is 15, and the unit price of a wire board is around 170 cedis. So you just multiply the unit price by the quantity to get the supply rate to be 2,550 cedis. That's 15. So if your land size is quite big, that means you need more wire boards. Some of them don't really use this wire board. Some use blocks for just doing this profiling or surrounding the building space, but that's not really advisable, because what if maybe someone comes for the blocks or they move the blocks somewhere else? So the best thing is to use the wire board. And you also need rope. And the rope, they use it for picking alignments, using the rope for picking alignments of where the grid lines will be passing so that it wouldn't be crooked. So this rope is used to pick alignments for the grid lines. And I'll be needing 2 pieces of the rope, and the rope costs 20 cedis, so you can just figure it out, like 40 cedis. And I'll also be needing 2x4 pegs. So this is the third item, 2x4 pegs. And these 2x4 pegs, I'll be using it to support the wire board to be able to just stand or just erect it in the ground. So I'll be using 20 pieces of the 2x4 pegs, and the peg is already prepared. So that one is 7 cedis per peg. So 20 pieces, the pieces the amount that we're going to get. And I'm also going to buy nails, the 3 inches and the 4 inches nail. These 3 and 4 inches nail I'll not just be using for the profiling setting, but I'll be using throughout the entire foundation. So I'm going to buy a box each. So 3-inch one, 4-inch one, and a box is pricing around 75 cedis. So you multiply to get your supply rate. And also you get your tiling cement. The tiling cement, we use this to demarcate where the grid lines will be passing. Some might not want to use this tiling cement. Some will choose to just use the pickaxe, the pickaxe to just draw the lines on the ground. But that's not really advisable, because that might someone might tamper with the lines over there, and you might not find them again. So the tiling cement too is much visible compared. Some also use sand, but the tiling cement is very white and it's very much visible. So I prefer to use the tiling cement for just demarcating where the grid lines are going to be passing. And the tiling cement is costing around 70 cedis, and you can get it for less, 60 cedis, with depreciation of the dollar too. Most of these items are really coming down, so 70 cedis shouldn't be more than that. And also you can also factor the cost of transportation. If you do not have a vehicle to be just buying these stuff or transporting these stuff from the market to the site, you also have to account for the transportation. So I accounted for 200 cedis. Maybe if I'll be using the Abosokai or maybe a public transport, I'm going to factor 200 cedis for the transport. And labor cost is going to include the people doing the setting out. You have to get an experienced person to be able to do that setting out so that your lines do not look crooked. So you get an experienced person, and it's not going to be costing more than 1,500 cedis. So with this, to your bargaining skills can also let it come down to let's say 1,000 cedis for setting the profiling. And at ConArchy, we already have someone who does that, so we don't really include this into our pricing. But just for an individual trying to build, you have to get someone to do your profiling for you. So once the profiling and everything is done, we start with our excavation. So this is where we excavate the demarcated areas where our excavation or the strip footing is going to be. We have to excavate that. And with the excavation, we started by calculating this is a volume. The cubic volume of excavated soil. This is where the volume of excavation we are going to be doing. So with that, you just take the total length, multiply by the width, and multiply by the depth to get the cubic meter of excavation. And for this, from my experience, a laborer is supposed to excavate a cubic meter a day. That means a laborer is supposed to excavate 1 cubic meter a day. So knowing with this knowledge, you can say that if one day is a cubic meter, that means it's going to take 25 days to just excavate this 25 cubic meter. That's just one laborer. But if you want it to go fast, you also get more hands. But definitely it's going to end up at this value 3,750, because 150 times this 25 cubic meter is going to be the total cost for excavation. It doesn't matter if you are going to take more hands, it's just going to make it faster if you use more people. So once the excavation is done, we also have to get our steel bender to just tie our reinforcements. So our mat and our starter bars, we have to get a steel bender to do that. So first of all, we also have to just buy our reinforcement. So from my estimation and calculation, we are going to be using the 12 rebars for this construction. It's just a flat house, not a story. 12 is okay because it will not be carrying any much loads, but I'm just going to make it 6 pieces of rods in a starter bar. So in a starter column, you are going to get like 6 pieces in every column, or 6 pieces of 12 So these calculations, these pieces of reinforcement is just for the foundation level, not the superstructure, just for the foundation. So 12 rebar, I'm going to need 28 pieces for both the mat and the starter. The mat and the starter columns, I'm going to be using 28 pieces for the 12 and 8 for the stirrups, or some of you say the rings. So these are the rings or the stirrups, 24 pieces of a full 8 and a 12 bar. And a full bar is like I think that's 12 meters. That's for the high tensile, and for the mount tensile it's like 9 meters here. So I'm going to get a 12 meters. That's quite longer, and we can use that for our construction. So a piece is costing around 130 cedis. So 130 cedis times the number of pieces you want, and you're going to get the total cost of your reinforcements. So this is for just for the mat and the starter. And for the ground beams, so I did a calculation, 12 for the longitudinal bars and the 8 for the rings or stirrups. So this is the value I'm getting, the pieces, and this is the unit price. You just multiply to get the supply rate. And for the ground slab, so here we are looking at the reinforcement that will be needed in the foundation. For the ground slab, you'll be needing the BRC mesh. So this mesh we normally place at the surface of the ground slab after compaction and everything. This BRC mesh we place like 25 millimeter from the top surface. This mesh is to prevent cracking at the top surface of the overside concrete. That's what most of you call it. Some will say the ground slab, the overside concrete. Yes. So this mesh is to prevent crack or handle the tensile resistance in the slab. So I'm going to use 10 pieces of that. So BLC mesh, one of them covers I think 10 square meter, or I think 11 square meter, and the total size of my building space is 100 square meter. So I'm going to need approximately 10 pieces. So 10 pieces, and a mesh costs around 500 cedis. It depends on the mesh you are buying. Some are much expensive, some are even less expensive. But this is going to cost me around 500 cedis. So multiplying that, I get my 5,000 cedis for the total BLC mesh I'll be using. And also I'll be needing a binding wire for tying the mats, the starter columns, the ground beams. All these will also be needing binding wire. I'm going to be needing 3 pieces of binding wire, and a binding wire is costing around 70 cedis. So 70 cedis, you are going to get this for your supply rate. And once you are done with everything, the steel bender to you have to pay the steel bender for the works to be done, and I've estimated an amount of 2,000 cedis for the steel bender. This is not a fixed price. You can bargain with the steel bender to get a much lower price. It all comes down to your bargaining skills. Some of us are very good at bargaining, so these prices all can also come down, and some can also go high if you're not really you don't really have much idea into the construction. Because they know you don't have much idea into it, they might start with a very higher rate, but you have to make sure it's very economic. So once we are done, these are the reinforcements you'll be needing for the foundation, and also we'll be needing some wire board for our fascia. Once casting the ground slab, you need a wire board to, like, for covering around the ground slabs when casting, to get the elevation, like maybe 150 ground slab. Or some of you might opt for a facial board. That is all right. So whichever you use, just we are all going to get the same outcome. So 15 pieces was the estimated pieces I'll be using for this construction, and some of the wire boards will be used in the foundation for getting the column formworks, the starter columns formworks inside the foundation. So you can use this same wire, some of them for that, and leave some for the profiling, or just for the facial of the ground slab. So wire board is costing around 170 cedis, so you also get that. And also always try not to forget factor transport. So with this, if you already have your own vehicle, then you can just take this one out to also reduce your expenses. So once we are done, we'll come back to our concrete work. So now we have our excavated ground, we have our steel reinforcements tied already, our steel bender is done with that. We have to start with our concrete works. So with the concrete works, we are going to need sand and chipping. So sand and chipping, so you need one trip of sand and one trip of chippings for this foundation, for the foundation only. So the sand, a double axle is costing around 2,650. Yes, we did one construction recently, and it was around Ashaman, and it cost 2,650. This value is not really constant. It varies from location. Maybe in Kasua, Weja, all these locations have different prices, but it doesn't really vary by much. A large margin is quite close, but it should be around this value. Recently we did some construction, and this is what we costed for. We bought this one trip of double axle sand for, and we're also going to buy chippings. Chipping is supposed to be around 3,000 cedis. It varies per your location too. And for the cement, we are going to be needing 150 bags of cement for the foundation. This cement, we are going to need this cement. This 150 includes the foundation footing, that's the strip footing, the foundation, the columns in the foundation, and also the overside concrete. This cement all has been included here, 150 bags of cement, and a bag of cement is costing like 110 based on the type of cement you are using. So this 150, you can choose not to buy all at once. You can start by buying like 100 bags of cement to start with. Once you are going and you know that, oh, maybe with the ones left, I'll need like 20 bags of cement, 30 bags of cement, then you buy it. You don't need to buy the 150 altogether. You might have leftovers. But it's okay if you are building this big structure, because if you have leftovers, you can use it for the superstructure. But 150 bags of cement should be okay for this 2-bedroom apartment. If it's a 5-bedroom, all these estimates will go a little bit higher. So for the concrete work, you have to rent a concrete mixer for casting of the ground, the strip footing in the foundation. You need concrete mixers for this. And for a concrete mixer, renting this is around like 600 cedis. Yeah, renting a concrete mixer. It also varies per location. You can get some for 500 cedis. You can get for 600 cedis per day. But for this work we did, it was 600 cedis per day, and the 600 cedis, some comes with the operator, some too you have to get your own operator to just operate the machine. So this concrete mixer you'll be using for 2 days. The concrete mixer you'll be using for 2 days. That's for casting of the strip footing and also casting of the overside concrete. So with the oversized concrete and the strip footing, we'll be using this concrete mixer, and the concrete mixer per day is 600 cedis. So multiplying by 2 days, that's 1,200 cedis. And the total workforce I'll be using for the concrete works, I estimated I'll be using, so you can see this 1M, 3L, 1O. So 1M is 1 mason, 3 laborers, and 1 operator. In case maybe when you rent the concrete mixer, it doesn't come with an operator, but if you have to get your own operator, that's to be included here. So with this, 1 mason is around 180 cedis. 1 mason takes 180 cedis. A laborer takes 150 cedis, and an operator are estimated to be taking 200 cedis. Some also take 250 cedis. But because we are a company and we are working with these artisans every time, we already have a reduced rate with them. So with the mason, 180, someone are taking 200 outside, but 180, 200 for operator. So with this, you'll be using them for 4 days. So this is the gang you'll be using. This is the gang we'll be using. You'll be using them for 4 days. The first day we'll be using them is for the casting of the strip footing in the foundation. That's the first time you'll be using this entire gang. So 1 mason, 3 laborers. That means 1 laborer will be loading the concrete mixer while the operator is by the mixer. 2 laborers will be pushing the wheelbarrow to serve the mason inside the foundation to be just leveling the concrete that will be poured into the foundation. So that's how we'll be operating using this gang to doing the concrete casting. But if it's a large construction, you need more hands. So with this, you'll be using just 4 people for this work. And for 4 days, first day, I've talked about the first day. The second day will be casting of the foundation, the starter columns in the foundation. Second day will be casting of the ground beams halfway. And the third day will be casting of the oversized concrete. It wouldn't be happening like every day, like a day after, but it's going to be happening maybe weeks after, depending on how the construction is going to be going. So a day, this 4 gang is 830 cedis, and for 4 days is 3,320 cedis. So that's it for here. And also I included transportation. So transportation, maybe the concrete mixer, I have to include transportation, maybe 100 cedis for the transportation of the concrete mixer, and 200 cedis for maybe transportation for the cement too. So the total transportation, I estimated around 300 cedis for that. And once these things are done, we also have to raise block works in the foundation. Once we've casted the strip footing inside the foundation, you have to raise the block works. So in the block work, we did the calculation, and we know that we'll be using 1,000 pieces of 6 inches concrete blocks. So with this, you know that I'll be using 1,000 pieces of 6 inches blocks in the foundation. So with that, a percentage of wastage has also been added, because at the side, some of the blocks breaks and all this kind of stuff. So some of them are going to be waste. So the wastage has also been added. 5% of wastage has been added. And a block is costing around 8 cedis. You can, at some areas, you can get at 8 cedi 50 pesos. And this is the total for the 1,000 blocks I'll be using. And with the laying of the block works too, I'll be using 3 masons, 2 laborers. So 3 masons, 2 laborers, 1 laborer. All the masons will be doing the block works, while the 2 laborers, 1 laborer will be serving them with the blocks, and the other laborer will be serving them with mortar. But because there is supposed to be 1-to-1, but since it's 3 masons to 2 laborers, you have to get the masons at one place. They'll be working closely to each other so that these 2 laborers can be able to serve all the 3 masons. So this, you have to also get a very good supervisor to supervise the site to make sure the work goes accordingly as planned. So we'll be doing that for 3 days. 3 days because 1,000 blocks, each mason is supposed to lay not less than 100 blocks a day. They are supposed to lay 100 blocks a day. But if maybe you have a good relation with a mason, and also with some form of strict supervision, they can do more than 100 blocks a day. But they are supposed to do 100 blocks a day. So if you are doing your calculation or estimation, just use 100 blocks a day. So with 1,000 blocks, that means divided by 100, we are going to get 10 sets of 100 blocks. And using 3 masons, that means you are going to be using not more than 3 days. So 3 days exactly, we have to be able to just raise the blocks works in the foundation. So just 3 days. So this is the rate for the gang, that's 840 cedis, and for 3 days you multiply to get the total labor rate for that block works. So once you are done, we also have laterite for the site for some of the filling. One trip is okay since we didn't excavate the entire interior area. We just excavated where the strip footing is going to be. So just one trip of laterite to be okay for the filling. And also here we estimated for plumbing estimates. So with the plumbing estimates, you see, because we don't want our pipes to be running along the building and all this kind of stuff, we want to include everything in the foundation. So we estimated for 1,500 cedis for all the pipes we'll be buying, the 4 inches pipes, the PPR pipes, the bend, the T's, the coupling and everything. So every plumbing item has been estimated here to be like 1,500 cedis. You shouldn't be using more than that for just, this is just a the ground floor, a flat house. This is okay for the WC access and all these things. 1,500 is okay for the items, and 1,000 cedis for the plumber is also okay. So depending on your bargaining skills, you can also come a little bit down. 500 cedis should be okay. So once you add some of these two together, you get a total for the plumbing estimate. So with these two, we have our waterproofing here. So with this project we are working on, this the project, the 2-bedroom apartment we're working on. With this, the site was located in a waterlogged area. So we had to make provisions to just solve the any problem of water ingress in the foundation. So because of that, we had to introduce the use of the DPC, that's a damp-proof course, the bitumen paint, and also the damp-proofing membrane. With the damp-proofing membrane, we mostly use it whether it's a waterlogged or not a waterlogged area. So with the DPM, just about one row, we just bought one row for that project, and a row covered like 150 square meter. So just one row, and the price was 1,500 cedis. You can, depending on the DPM you buy, you try to buy quality. That's why it's 1,500. You can get some as low as 800 cedis for the DPM. 500 cedis, I think you can also get some, but we wanted quality, so we just went for the 1,400 cedis one, and it covered the 120 square meter. The building space is 100 square meters, so this was okay for that. And with the DPC too, so before laying the superstructure blockworks, you have to lay this damp-proofing course before laying the blockworks on it. So with this DPC, in case the water should not just penetrate the foundation in the ground, this DPC is going to prevent the rise of the water in the superstructure blockworks. So we also do a double protection. So this DPC, and a DPC is going to covers like 30 meters. So 30 meters. So 30 meters is just a line. 30 meters. So we'll be needing 3 pieces, and a DPC is costing around 350 cedis. And with the bitumen is the bitumen paint is what will be painting the blockworks in the foundation so that it prevents water ingress. So we are going to be painting the block of the foundation so that water does not penetrate into the foundation to climb into the superstructure, because our building or our project was in a waterlogged area. So 2 buckets was okay, and a bucket is costing around 820 cedis, depending on the bitumen you are buying. Some are even go high as 1,300 cedis, 1,400 cedis. Some are also quite low, but we wanted to just be in the average range, and we went for the 821. It's also quality, that's what we use. And also we are going to factor transportation for the DPM, bitumen paint and everything. We have factored 200 cedis for that. So once the filling is done and we do the oversight concrete, so with the oversight concrete, so this is the labor force we'll be using. As I said, 4 days. The last day will be there for the oversight concrete. And before that, if you also want to you want to move faster, and you have to rent a compactor to do your compaction earlier, you can also include the price of the compactor. I'm not really sure of how they rent the compactor outside, but we have our own compactor over here, so I don't know how they rent it outside. But in case you also don't want to include the compactor rate, you can also stick to the natural compaction, as in leaving it there for it to rain and for the sun to be settling and all these kind of stuff. So you also have to get this compactor to compact if you can't wait. And also, once everything is done, ideally, I think you can't really factor everything. At least maybe you might need to buy a shovel, wheelbarrows, headpan. Even though the masons and laborers are supposed to be bringing that, can also factor that in your miscellaneous. Maybe at your site, there's no water at the site. You have to buy water also at the site. All of these has been factored into the miscellaneous. Some also use like 10% of the total to get the miscellaneous, but I just factored 5,000 cedis for this miscellaneous, just in case you need to buy anything that has not been factored for. So once we added everything, this is the total price we had just for the foundation, 77,692. Yes, this is a very, very affordable foundation. We did quality, but still we make sure it's very cost effective. So even with this, if you think the price is too high for you, there are certain things you can just remove or take out to bring the pricing a little bit down, like maybe the DPC. Where you are doing your construction, it's not in the waterlogged area, you can remove that. The bitumen paint, you can also remove that if it's not in the waterlogged area. But because it was, and we wanted to just provide quality for our clients, we had to do all of this, and our client was very satisfied. Not to just be looking at the amount, and I think the amount is quite fair. And also, I'm just showing you the things you can take out to reduce your cost if you think it's quite expensive. I think, okay, with a concrete mixer too, you can take that out and let the laborers mix their own concrete, but I think that's going to take a lot of time. Some also go without using a BLC mesh, which I do not advise, but you can also take that out if you think it's a small scale construction and there's not going to be enough load to cause crack in the foundation. And also the tiling cement, if you want to take that one out and maybe use your pickers to be drawing that line, which I will not advise, but these are just ways you can be cutting down the cost. Wire board too, you can choose not to buy a wire board. Cyber boards are quite less expensive. You can also go for cyber boards. And maybe your site, there's not enough clearing to be done on the site. You can also take this value out. But in all, 77,000 Ghana cedis for this inflated country. 77,000 Ghana cedis is very good for this foundation, and we ensure to provide quality. So 77,692 cedis. It's okay to do this 2-bedroom house foundation, and not forgetting quality. That's the most important thing, quality. So maybe in our next video, we'll be talking more about the superstructure, the cost involved in the superstructure, the roofing, the cost involved in the roofing, and in sheet 2, the interior design, the floor tiles, the wash hand basin, and everything that will be needed to make a complete or construct a complete building. So that was it with the foundation, 77,692 Ghana cedis. That's very cheap, and that's very, very simple to do. So I believe by now you also know how to just make an estimate for your building. But if you think it's going to be stressful for you, you can just contact us to just give you a good rate for your foundation, not just the foundation but the building, the total building in the whole. We can also do that for you, like for free. That's also free consultation. We can also do that for free for you, and I think it was very much easy. So that's it for today's video. Don't forget to like the video and also just subscribe to the channel so that we also know that we are actually doing a very good job. So thank you, and see you another time.